Hello students, welcome to today's lesson. Yesterday we spent some time thinking about To Kill a Mockingbird and our position on our essay prompt that we began exploring before our disruption to school. We also should remember that we went through some sample essays, so just try to get yourselves back into that mindset because our goal today is to craft a thesis for our argument essay and get started with our argument essay. So we have our topic today, choosing a position and crafting a thesis. A big part of a thesis is actually establishing a stance or a position, right? And that's going to be the answer to our big question too. So we have two learning targets. I can craft the claim of my argument essay based on the strongest evidence. So we're creating the claim, and we always want to make sure that our thesis statement is based upon evidence, that our claim, our position, the point that we are trying to make is evidence-based. So we want to make sure that we have chosen the strongest evidence in order to support our position. And next, our other learning target, I can choose relevant and compelling reasons to support the claim I am making in my argument essay. So today, we're not really focused on including evidence, but we always want the evidence in mind because when we are choosing a compelling reason, we're talking about general reasons, but we know that later we're going to need evidence for those general reasons. So we don't want to start something that is going to be more difficult later on because we don't have the evidence. So we are thinking about all of the reading that we've done. We are thinking about in addition to the novel, we're thinking about the play and the movie. And we're thinking about, do we think that it makes sense for Atticus to defend Tom Robinson? So we should remember this prompt, right? Atticus says, simply because we're licked 100 years before we started is no reason for us not to try to win. So does it make sense for Atticus to defend Tom Robinson? In yesterday's lesson, you thought of two general reasons to support your position, and you answered those in the form and hit submit. So the following slides are going to go through some of the responses. If we look at yesterday's responses of the pie chart, we'll see that 88% of the class felt that yes, it did make sense for Atticus to defend Tom Robinson. Overall, I'm with this stance, but I can also see the other argument, and we're going to go through some of the reasons today so that we can understand both sides, because a key to writing an argument essay is being aware and to thoroughly understand both sides of the argument. So we had 88% saying yes, 12% saying no. Let's look at some of the reasons given. So for the first response from yesterday's work, what is one reason in support of your answer? Does it make sense? Some said it would go against Atticus's moral of it's a sin to kill a mockingbird, since Tom Robinson was only trying to be helpful and he was being accused with a death sentence with really no chance of winning for something he didn't do. Atticus had to try anyway since it wouldn't do any good to try and fix the issue of racism in Macomb County if Atticus didn't try anyway. So that is a multi-part reason. But if we were to put it into our thesis statement, we would focus on, yes, he had to support, Atticus had to defend Tom Robinson because it would have gone against his morals not to. Or we could have said because Tom Robinson was being accused with a crime that could result in the death sentence. Here we have the second one. I think that it makes sense for Atticus to defend Tom Robinson because it is a way for him to show his kids not to participate in racism. He would be setting a good example for his children. So in this case, one of the reasons would be, I think it makes sense for Atticus to defend Tom Robinson because he'd be setting a good example for his children. Some of these are a little general. Well, if you never try, you will always fail, and what's the worst that could happen? I think the student could have been a little bit more specific in the response here and tied it back to the novel. So in this case, we really do want it to connect to the novel. It doesn't need evidence, but it needs to be based upon the events of the story. One reason, here's another. One reason is that they would have given him a lawyer that would have not tried his best to help, which would have been unjust. So the idea that it helped to support justice for Atticus to defend Tom Robinson. And then the last one, it makes sense for Atticus to defend Tom Robinson because Tom was wrongly accused and Atticus only believed in what's right. So we could pull parts of that for a thesis by saying Tom was wrongly accused, or because Atticus acts upon what's right. Take a moment now and look through these, the continuation of student responses. See if you can find one or two responses that argue against defending Tom Robinson. So I'll give you about 40 seconds for that right now and try to find reasons against, or just read through and try to understand what some of the other students were saying. Okay, so hopefully that was enough time to go through. This one should have popped out at you for reasons why not, if that's what you spent time looking for. It wasn't worth it because he knew he was going to lose anyway, and it was a waste of time. So I think we could maybe, change this to going, but he knew he was going to lose anyway. Atticus was going to lose no matter what. That's a strong reason. We know that from the society that we've seen. Um, Another one, I think this one was against, right? Tom still testified guilty, not testified, but was still found guilty and had death threats anyway. So just even with Atticus defending him, he wasn't going to um, be found not guilty. We see other reasons why here. Sets an example for Gem and Scout. Atticus believes that African Americans should be treated the same way that whites are treated. I'm assuming this means, which is why he should help Tom Robinson. So we have different reasons why here. And then we have the golden rule, which we saw in some of the earlier answers as well. Here we have our second reasons why. He's going to be convicted if Atticus defended Tom or not. This is pretty similar to the other reason we saw on the other slide about why he shouldn't have defended Tom Robinson. A lot of these focus on being innocent, right? It was obvious Tom didn't commit those acts. Tom was really innocent. And here we have racial equality, which we saw on the last slide. So we see that a lot of the reasons that people came up with were the same, and that makes sense because we all read the same novel, and that's what the evidence points to. So here's a comprehensive list, not, everything, but a lot of what we could come up with is here. And I'll give you about 30 seconds to look through. Okay. So you'll see a lot of these reasons that I have, or that the curriculum has, or that the teachers have come up with, pretty much they match what you guys came up with. We added a bit based on what we've seen from student work, but this pretty much covers both sides of the argument. And this is key to writing our essay because no matter which way we argue, we want to keep the other argument in mind too. And you guys should have that word in your head. What's the word for the argument against your stance? Counter-argument. Yes, if you said it out loud, give yourself a pat on the back. Okay, so let's keep going. The slide, I'll put it together later too so that you can look through it as a PDF, but you could also play the video and pause so that you could refer back to that list. So now we've analyzed model essays back in class. We've analyzed some of the reasons why, or reviewed some of the reasons why. You've practiced thinking about your position. You've practiced thinking about your 2 reasons in support of your position. You guys are ready to write your thesis. So let's look at a sample. Here's an example. This is the argument, the argument against Atticus defending Tom Robinson. And here we have, no, it doesn't make sense for Atticus to defend Tom because he puts his own life and the lives of his family in danger and ruins his reputation around Maycomb. And each part of this thesis is color-coded for your reference. The very first part in purple, no, it doesn't make sense for Atticus to defend Tom. That's the position. That's where you let the reader know how you feel and what you think in response to the prompt. So this thesis is saying, nope, don't agree. Atticus should have just left it all alone. Doesn't make sense for him to defend Tom. What comes next is our 2 general reasons. And it needs to be 1 sentence, so we can't write a whole bunch. So let's look at reason 1. Puts his own life and the lives of his family in danger. Okay, that makes sense. And it ruins his reputation around Maycomb. That's reason 2. Okay. If I think about both of these reasons, could I find evidence for both of them? If we can't, then we need to kick them out and think of something else. Because what's going to happen later is this reason number 1 is going to become, are you guessing it already? I hope so. Body paragraph number 1. And then reason number 2 is going to become, if you said it and got it right, body paragraph number 2, pat on the back, good job. Yes. So we want to make our lives easier. We want to think ahead. We know what's coming later. We're going to need body paragraphs. We're going to need evidence. Can we think of evidence for these things? Can we create a body paragraph out of them? If the answer is yes, then you're pretty much good to go. So now you're going to try. You're going to go to the next assignment in our classwork section of Google Classroom, and you're going to create and enter your thesis statement. Before you type it out, because maybe we'll share some in class tomorrow and get some feedback, we'll see. Before we type it out, make sure that you've read it out loud. Before you hit submit, make sure that you've read it out loud and that it makes perfect sense and that it has both a position and 2 reasons, just like the example that we looked at. Okay, good luck everyone. We're looking forward to reading your thesis statements for your arguments, and you'll get some feedback afterwards. Have a good day. Don't forget, you still have to do independent reading as well. Okay, and responses.